This is Chris Isham, and I'm the Washington Bureau Chief for CBS News, and this is Flashpoints. We're here, as always, with Juan Zarate, our national security analyst. Welcome, Juan.
Chris, great to see you.
We learned this week about a major counterterrorism strike in Yemen. The target was Nasser al-Wuhayshi, longtime head of al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, AQAP, and a major figure in al-Qaeda itself. Why was this an important strike?
Well, Wuhayshi was a long-standing al-Qaeda leader, very close to bin Laden. Once his secretary had served in Afghanistan. He led al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula and its resurgence starting in 2007, and had become the global deputy for Ayman al-Zawahiri, al-Qaeda's number two man in essence. And he was also really important, Chris, because he began the innovation of the use of an al-Qaeda affiliate, al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, really to begin to challenge strategically on a global basis. That is to say, he began to animate a more global sense of what the group could do out of Yemen, beginning to attack the West. Remember the underwear bomber. Beginning to think strategically about animating those who were sympathetic to attack in place, and beginning to innovate in terms of the use of media. Inspire magazine began to worry counterterrorism officials. So this was really a long-in-the-tooth jihadi with deep ties to al-Qaeda core, and his absence not only decapitates AQAP, but robs al-Qaeda of one of its deep and long-standing leaders globally.
I mean, he really was one of the instrumental leaders of al-Qaeda in mounting attacks against the West. He not only, you mentioned the underwear bomber, Abdul Muttalib, who, of course, his attack failed, but it would have been devastating if it succeeded. And also the attack against the French newspaper Charlie Hebdo.
That's exactly right.
So this was an organization that was dedicated to attacking Western targets, not just local targets.
And in fact, he had come out publicly. There was a video that concerned Western counterterrorism officials just a few months ago, where he came out publicly. He was among his followers, where he was proclaiming very clearly that he and the group remained committed to attacking the head of the snake, the far enemy, the United States. That was important because he was not only further ensconcing and pledging his allegiance to al-Qaeda itself, but really guiding the global movement to attack the West. And they did take credit for the Charlie Hebdo attacks. You're absolutely right, Chris.
So he's been replaced. Al-Qaeda has already announced that he's been replaced, and we'll now begin to see that how effective this leader is.
Qasim al-Rimi is well known to counterterrorism officials, wanted by the U.S. government. There's a prize on his head. He's been the militant commander for AQAP. He's been right alongside Wuhayshi since '07, the creation of AQAP, and has really been a militant leader, and has also been a propagandist. And so AQAP itself isn't going to miss much of a beat. They're still going to be committed to attacking the West. They're still going to be committed to expanding their reach in Yemen. And keep in mind, Chris, that amid all the chaos in Yemen, AQAP has actually grown stronger. They now control a city in the eastern part of the country called Mukalla. They have been able to establish a safe haven. They have more manpower than ever before. They've funded themselves relatively well with some bank robberies in Mukalla. And so this is a group that is continuing to threaten. And even though Wuhayshi, a very important figure, has been taken off the battlefield, AQAP remains a threat.
So it's still important, but not necessarily fatal to AQAP.
Not fatal, and in some ways, as we've seen the metastasizing of the al-Qaeda universe, and frankly the growth of the Islamic State as the vanguard of the global terrorist movement, this strike, though significant, certainly not sufficient to stem that momentum, and certainly doesn't have the resonance that it once would have, given the nature of the terrorist threat and organization as it currently sits. And so this is a big counterterrorism action by the U.S. government, but in the context of the current environment, less significant than otherwise assumed.
Okay, well, thank you, Juan, for that analysis.
Thank you, Chris.
And thank you for watching Flashpoints.